Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, our production of Gore column, in which we take the time to speak to small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, for all you HPQ shareholders, you know who it is, Bernard Tourillon, CEO of HPQ, which trades in Canada under the stock symbol HPQ. For our friends in the US, under the stock symbol HPQFF. For those of you in the story, a short intro, which also is going to make the current investors happy because the words kind of speak for themselves. What you have to know is, first, HPQ is a Canadian producer of innovative silicon solutions. They're building a portfolio of unique, high-value specialty silicon products that are needed for the upcoming renewable energy revolution. And they're doing that through the two innovative reactors that permit the one-step transformation of quartz into high-purity silicon and actually even further specialty silicon products. And they're doing that at significantly reduced cost, energy usage, and carbon footprint. What's the result? Well, more than just lip service, the company received its first order for spherical nanosilicon material from a major automobile manufacturer. We don't know who that is. And they've also signed an NDA and received a request for silicon material samples from a world-leading high-performance materials company. Here to talk about the company's latest press release, issued a U.S. patent for their PureVap quartz reduction reactor. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about this. How important is the patent issuance to you? What changes as a result of patent issuance?
Well, a lot changes. Our technology is protected. In a certain way, as we move away from being a resource company and to become a technology company, our main assets are our patent, our intellectual properties, our technologies we're developing. And having the validation of getting the U.S. patent on this technology is crucial. It is really important because that's what puts you in a different level. When you're patent pending, it's nice, you're protected, but now you have a patent issue. It also improves the credibility of what you're doing. Not that there's any doubt about pyrogenesis credibility, sure, because there's multiple patents, but there was no patent attached to HPQ. So this one is attached to HPQ. If you look in the patent document, it is written owner HPQ.
So in the document, in the press release, sorry, because you said document, in the press release, you talked about, because I'm assuming the timing of this is really good as well, and not that you timed it this way because you're not in control of what the U.S. Patent Office does, but timing seems right because you are going into your development and monetization strategy. So I'd like to discuss that a little further. You mentioned that in the press release. What does that mean? Flesh that out for us.
Yeah, I'll flesh multiple things of what you said, timing wise. This is another example how difficult timing is, okay? We knew from the information that was published on the end of November of last year that we were going to be granted that patent, okay? But until you are issued that patent, it's not done. So it's one of those binary situations. So it's just to give an idea how timeline works. We got the documents, we got the validation that they were going to issue us a patent end of November, and here we are, March 8th, and it's been issued. It's like everything takes its sweet old time. We started this process in 2016, if my memory is correct. We have it now. So we're protecting since 2016 up to for multiple years in the future. So that's the key important, because that means in one of our big market, okay, which is the US, that unique disruptive process to transform quartz into high purity silicon in one step is protected by our patent. So that's one of the key things. And when we say develop and monetize, well, as part of developing for a technology company, getting patent is one of those milestones that we reach. How do we monetize? Well, the value of the patent, okay, suddenly becomes bigger. When you have a patent pending, it's not the same thing as having a patent. So that increases the value of the companies and the assets of the company. So our strategy is we have multiple technologies that we're developing, okay, and we will find a way to monetize them. Now, for some people out there's mostly FUD agents, there's always a question of revenues, okay?
Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. For
yeah, so the people that
the people referred to Elmer FUD.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that's probably where the name come from. Probably like they were smart enough at that time when they did those classic cartoons that have that. Yeah, so that's the value of the technology developed start to have more concrete recognition. It's like it's the ultimate third party of you at least have something that's new, innovative, and it doesn't exist.
And by the way, I presume, not to cut you off, but I presume it's also got to make your discussions with client customers, potential customers even stronger now, because one of the first thing I know a bigger company will ask is, hey, do you guys have a patent on this? Or is it, because if it's not, it makes them, just slightly more nervous because they want to make sure you got it locked down.
Not client per se, but it's going to be mostly investors, institutional investors. For them, that's a key point. For clients, they just want us to be able to deliver it. Now, it also, getting the patent also validate the fact that what we're doing has not been done. So that explains why it takes time, because we're not repeating something. As we said in the press release, that technology that started this, was first invented in what's the exact year?
1899.
Yeah, 1899. So we're completely rethinking how that is done. We're doing so changes. So, and the other fun part, where our timing is perfect, is the price of silicon is going up, but that's a variation that we have to deal with. The more I read from the industry, the more I read. It's not going to be easy to start a new project to meet the demand. It seems to be now the recurring theme. Nobody invested in resource for so many years. Nobody invested in this for so many years that now that people need it, A, they don't have a clue how to do it. And B, it's complicated. It's really complicated. I was reading an interesting document that one of the barriers to entries is the complete lack of knowledge. There hasn't really been new silicon metal plant built, less than new processes. So one of the risk
that means you don't have a lot of people who have a lot of experience and knowledge around it.
Absolutely none, because the last would probably be built in the 60s, 70s, upgraded, maybe a few more, but there's not. So there's a few group of companies that have people, and I know because I went through that process, and these big companies have gotten rid of their R&D division. They just know how to operate their old system well. That they know how to do. But having a completely new system that's doing completely wasn't part of the thinking process. What we've done with HPQ since 2015, we're doing this. So we have our own internal know-how. And also I know people that have a lot of expertise and those things that are gradually going to come as the project move along, come and join HPQ as we keep moving. So I feel very comfortable what we have.
And by the way, having a new process doesn't necessarily mean you've got a better mousetrap. It doesn't necessarily mean you've figured anything out. It just means you have a new process that doesn't work or is terrible. But the fact that you got the major automobile manufacturer who,
George, you're mixing apple and oranges. Okay. The auto manufacturer is interested in the nano reactor, which is its capacity to take silicon, and convert it into nano powders. In a certain way, our division HPQ Nano, is like any other Joe Blow silicon or George silicon nano company. All right. We were not limited to do our testing because we didn't have the QRR working. We could buy polysilicon and other materials and use it equivalent and use it to do our testing, to advance our project, to do nanopowder. And it is that capacity to convert the silicon into nanoparticle that brought us the orders. What's happening with the QRR and what completely differentiates us from all the other silicon anode manufacturer player is that we will also be making our raw material. Now, since there is no new process, traditional process requires 30,000 metric ton a year, massive capital to entries. That means that all the other George nano silicon or silicon for battery manufacture, has to buy its raw material from somebody. Now we know two things. We've discovered two things of the work we've done. A, regular metallurgy grade silicon metal does not work. It really doesn't work. The lowest purity material that these guys can tolerate is 3N, 4N. That's really what these anode silicon manufacturers are looking for. That is not a product that exists right now. It exists if you take metallurgy grade silicon and further refine it to make it a product. So nobody can do that in one step. Okay. So if you picture this, we can make that raw material cheaper than the other guys get their raw material to purify it, to make the raw material for batteries. Okay. The nanoreactors strategy is to working on nanoparticle size. Okay. The reason being that if you're trying to do micron size for battery, it's not going to be as, our system, the nanoreactors can be more efficient, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. So there's really two things into it. So for us, what's exciting about the QRR is that we finally have our own internal source to make our own 4N material, okay, that we can develop. But I'm not limited by the nanoreactor's capacity. So demand is going to be coming from our 4N, and this is what the other company came in. And it's funny because it's another one of those situations with
high performance materials.
Yeah, high performance. It's another one of those situations where they want the product, okay, and I had to have a heart-to-heart talk with them, which basically says to them, okay, guys, okay, I understand you want the product, I want to deliver it to you. Okay, this is a realistic timeline that I can deliver, and they stop and says, okay, we'll have to live with your timeline. What we do is so unique.
That's saying something. Wow.
What we do is so unique that people there, you can't build a new what we're doing. Okay, you can't repeat what we're doing, and now it's patented. Okay, and there's other.
And Bernard, a lot of people, listen, a lot of people still don't know. Look, we got a lot of smart shareholders. Man, there's some unbelievable brains out there when I see some stuff they write. But a lot of people still don't really understand the practical side, which is how powerful position HPQ Silicon is now in, right?
Yes, and there was some smart people that were investors a few years ago that turned into a FUD agent that were adamantly screaming that we would never get a patent for our process. Okay, so and it was funny without being funny. There was a bit of how can I say, market reaction that was the same. The stock price was going down. People were looking for an excuse, and the entire storyline about the patent, and I'm talking here 2017, okay? The entire storyline about that became very, very big. And it was one of those binary situations we can't really reply. We knew we were going to get it. We repeated it multiple times. At the end, we are proven right that we were right.
Yeah, but until you get it, everybody who wants to say you're not going to get it carries the day, right? But this is just another example of maybe shareholders should be just paying much more attention to what you and Pyrogenesis have to say, because you haven't missed on anything yet. Yeah, there have been delays. Obviously, some things take a little longer than you'd like them to take, but you guys haven't missed on anything yet.
Yeah, that's the and that's the fact, and that's the key point. And now, as we get closer to the end of Q1, where the QRR start working, then that becomes more interesting because it opens up more avenue for us. So I really feel very happy to do that.
So let's talk about that, because that's in the press release too. It's a subheading: HPQ on target to start the pure VAP QR pilot plant. Let's discuss that.
So you're going to become like I am with the guys at Pyro, because I call them, if not daily. Are we still on target? Yes, is the answer. Yeah, we're on target. Yes, is the answer. But it's one of those binary situation until we start. We're still in commissioning. So let me.
Kind of like the patent.
It's kind of like the patent. So it's always the same process, especially when you're doing advanced R&D, you're doing disruptive technologies, okay? That's how it works.
And yet you make statements like this excerpt from the press release: we're the only company to bring to market a new process for making silicon that is perfectly suited to the new demands and realities of the silicon market. Mm-hmm. No one makes statements like that without being very, very confident, right? Just to me, I read between the lines. That says to me, hey, you're not going to make a statement like that unless you guys are extremely confident in
Or
being
bullshit
able
or
to
just according
achieve
to
what
some
you said
people,
you're going to
that's an
achieve.
irrelevant concept. It's George. The fact is, we have always been confident of what we're doing. Okay, we've always said what we've done. Okay, where we're always wrong is on our timing. So what I'm trying to do is not put too much timing, put them in a way that's, gives us not wiggle room, just reality of these things happening. Okay, it's as I was explaining, and I will re-explain. Okay, when you're building a new technology and you're starting it, it's not like getting a car out of the shop that's been, a car they've built 1,000 of those. They know exactly how it's going to work. It's a first. It's a unique. It's a 1 in a million piece of equipment.
Oh, well, you're in uncharted territory. You're completely uncharted territory. You are the tip of the spear. Okay, and there's nobody else on the planet.
I'm going to backpedal a bit. We're not that much in uncharted territory. We're on charted territory of doing R&D. There is multiple steps of doing R&D. Okay, as you get more and more advanced, okay, you understand more of what's going to happen. So it's not. I don't want to get people to get scared. Says, oh, they're in uncharted territory. They don't know what's going to happen. No, we have a good clue what's going to happen. We also know.
I'm saying that in a good way. I mean, like Elon Musk was in uncharted territory when he created his rocket program to get to Mars, right? It doesn't mean that we should be afraid of it, but he was uncharted territory. There's nobody else that was there. So you kind of have to go with his timeline, but he hit the milestones. And all of this, we've talked about a little bit in the past that the whatever delays, and it hasn't been that great, but whatever delays have taken place have almost played in your favor, because we've been talking for a while now that the silicon market has been in deficit, and that's led to higher prices. But then on March 4th on Twitter, I'm going to read here, you posted, per Ferroglobe's latest investor call, the U.S. price for 1 metric ton of silicon as of the end of December 2021 reached $10,000 compared to $2,500 a year ago. HPQ PureVap is about to start producing silicon, and due to the war, the price will not drop anytime soon. I mean, that's a pretty big statement to make, because Russian and Ukrainian silicon production capacity is removed from the market. So we thought we had perfect timing 3, 4, 5 months ago, and now it seems like uber perfect timing. Let's talk about how that this rapid price appreciation will probably lead to more phone calls coming in.
It's definitely going to lead to phone call once the QRR is started. Because there's something happening right now. It's like the cost of everything is, we're going to have to deal with it. We just know that conceptually, because we use, we don't need as high raw material as anybody else that we can tolerate. We can go higher purity. We know we have incredible cost advantage. Our process is simple. It's a reactor as opposed to a smelter. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but it is. The flexibility and the sizing that we can do allows us to go, how can I say, it will allow us to cherry pick the high value market. Okay. So I think in the deck we're doing, there was and there's also an additional problem, which is there's no new production coming online, because, you can't even get Chinese production to come and cover it. Okay. And as more and more processes get repatriated, what we're doing is going to become much more important. So just to give an idea, when we started this in 2015, 16, I think we probably did our first interview about this in 2016. Yeah, I think it was 2016 when we announced, it was 2015 when we announced this. I think the price of polysilicon at that time was $14,000 a kilogram. And we were shooting to do 6N at $14,000 a kilogram. Now, here we are, 2N is selling for $10,000 a kilogram. But that doesn't mean
or
$10 a kilogram, 10,000 a ton. Sorry, right, sometimes I confuse them. But
I want to make sure we're on the same.
No, you're right. We're not yet talking about it. So what the market we had envisioned at the beginning, okay, is now better. But during that lapse of time when things took time, okay, there was a complete destruction of the price. The price of polysilicon went from $14 to $24 all the way down to $8. The price of metallurgic grade silicon metal always fluctuates between 2005 and 3000, 2000. It plays in that range. It just plays in that range because when it gets to be too low, they cut off production. And when it's to be too high, they put more production into it. But we reach a point where there is none of that spare capacity anymore. Because, you know, the spare capacity, anyway, to make a long story, there's no spare capacity. So there's a need now for new capacity to come online, which is going to be driven by 2N. Desperately, it's going to be coming in by 2N in the market, which is difficult to do. Actually difficult for the traditional process, very easy for us to do. So as we start the QRR and we start getting positive results and we start demonstrating we can do 3N, 4N, then it's going to get, I think there's going to be more and more phone calls. So that's part of the monetization. People are going to see me. I'm already in, there's already some groups that would like to get some exclusivity at marketing us, marketing the products.
So you've got potential what, marketers, third party vendors that are now talking about marketing the product around the world?
In specific markets, there's some people that want to do this. At this moment, I am still reticent to advance this for a very simple reason. I want to get a better handle on our entire cost structure in the sense that, you know, I want to go from rough order of magnitude to, you know, pretty clear rough numbers of validation and all those information, which is the normal part of the process.
What is this, by the way, and I want to talk about ESG in a second, but I just want to finish this. What does this spike in silicon do to the cost structures of traditional status quo competitors? I mean, does this absolutely destroy their competitiveness because they can't go, their raw material costs are skyrocketing for some of them?
Well, for the people that use it, okay, the cost is going to go. But, you know, if you look in aluminum, okay, price of aluminum is going through the roof. There's a shortage of aluminum. It's a recurring effect everywhere else. So it's going to have an inflation-driven impact on everybody because the cost of silicon, because silicon is used in everything. And now when you add ESG principle, well, how is it made, you know, how traceable it is, then that comes to play into the concept. So it will have a, you know, certain bearing, long time bearing problem. It might also create a willingness to want to build a new plants. But I think financiers now, I've learned from past experience, they're not going to be crazy at financing $300 million for a new plant and $700 million for the resources to what it is. Like
devil's advocate with the skyrocketing prices, might that actually happen? Where you have bankers and investors saying, I'm more willing to maybe finance a traditional old silicon plant at $300 million because the prices are going through the roof?
I think the choice between them is going to be financing that or financing us, and they're going to choose us because the limitation of a system that was originally designed in 1899 are starting to show, in the sense that the market is demanding for a pure product. The entire silicone demand for battery requires a product that the traditional silicone makers cannot do in one step. It ends the question. So the markets of the future, okay, the market where exponential growth are going to be coming from, okay, cannot work with the material they're doing, as opposed to what we're doing.
And on that note, I want to finish off with, let's talk about the ESG side, because we really haven't talked about that a lot in the past. You're going to have the lower CapEx. You're going to have the lower OpEx. You're going to have the lower use of energy, lower carbon footprint. That's all great. But the ESG is almost, so those are all quantitative elements, and you're leading all those. But the ESG side is, I don't want to say almost as important, but really high up there, right? Because if you could deliver all that, but it's done in a dirty way or in a way that, you know, isn't friendly to the environment, you might get all doors closed to you. But the ESG advantage that HPQ has, can you talk about that as to where you think that is as a further competitive element?
Yeah, well, what happens, one of the concepts of ESG is traceability. Okay. And that's one thing that's very easy for us to offer. We can offer complete traceability and control because for a lot of our end buyers, let's say they're niche specialty market, but don't require a massive amount, we could probably even, ring fence our production around it. I've already discussed this many times. There's also other things that we're studying how to improve our ESG, are basically the environmentally friendliness of our material, even though fundamentally our process is carbothermic, so it doesn't seem to be very environmentally friendly because it requires carbon. So I think that's going to play into it, but that's going to be, I say, one of those issues that's not really clear. It's an issue where you have to be very cautious when you talk about ESG, because ESG is used in every sauces. In our case, where we really make a differentiation is that we will be able to offer a product that's been used by anybody, where we can offer full traceability on the material from the extraction of the mine all the way, because we'll know where we buy our material, we'll know how it is, we'll have our own tech sheet how we want materials to be done, as opposed to us bothering having the mines. So, and at the end, the electricity, we have to make sure it's hydroelectricity to do the material, and we have control of this, but the rest of our process is relatively simple.
Let's close with this. You've got the patent now and everything else that we've talked about that's happened recently, and you're almost get QRRs ready to go. How strong do you feel today about the future of HPQ Silicon? Is it even stronger than how you felt? Because as you de-risk, as you keep checking boxes, I got to figure you're getting more and more confident. How strong do you feel about the company? How good should shareholders feel about how the company is positioned for this market?
I think, it really depends. Like if shareholders only look at the share price, and I can relate to some of them, letting me know that that's the only thing they look at. I understand that they're not happy with it. As a large shareholder, so am I unhappy with it. But as I've said many, many times, the company is not the market. Okay. And the company is better positioned now. We're much more deleveraged. I'll go back to my experience. I was saying, like in 2017, when the issue happened with the patent and the share price came down, the FUD agent, piled it on me and all those issues. That was a much more difficult position because we hadn't finalized the financing. We only had one verticalities to work on. This work or this doesn't work. Here we are in 2022, we have at least 3 verticalities related to what we're doing, okay? With multiple different multi-billion dollars end markets that are gonna need our product. Like we stopped talking that much about solar, but solar is gonna be coming back, massively and aggressively. The silicone for batteries is gonna be big. Fume silica is also gonna be big. So it's not at all the same situation. B, I've done, yes, we are a non-revenue company. We're a technology developing company. And right now that's out of flavor from the market because it's a risk off. But, we were able to deal with this because we're financed to reach our next big milestone operation. So we don't really need to go out and get funding to reach our big operational milestone, which will attract more people. And I know because I do talk to investors on a regular basis, and, having money offered to me is not an issue for advancing the project, because people that don't just look at the market now and look at it like this realize what we're doing, what we're building, or it's advancing.
And I'm glad you differentiated between if investor looks at the share price or looks at the company. That's why when I asked the question, how strong, how do you feel about the position of the company? That's the only thing that matters to me and should matter to most people. Yeah. Some stocks will be overvalued, undervalued, and we're not going to talk about that because that's for people at home to decide. But the job here is for you to convey the strength of the company itself and the path. And it seems to me, Bernard, that it's pretty clear. It's stronger than ever. And look, we're sitting here March the 9th. So end of Q1 is 22 days away. So I'm hoping and presuming we're going to have you on by then at the latest, maybe even earlier. But thanks for coming on today as always, my friend.
Thank you.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or listened by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Bernard Tourillon, CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources, trades in Canada under HPQ, and for our friends in the US, HPQFF. For those new to the story, because you can see it keep developing, you want to do your due diligence because there's a lot going on here. Like we said, this is cutting edge, tip of the spear kind of stuff. Start with Agoracom and the profile page of HPQ because we've got it neatly laid out in layman's terms to give you a good 1,000-foot overview of the company. And then once you're comfortable with that, you got the foundation, hop right over to the company's website, do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.